If lions can do it, so can you. In the animal kingdom, all mammals teach their young the predators teach them to hunt, but all mammals teach the young how to survive, which means how to eat, as well as how to mate before they go off on their own. A lion does not leave the pride and go off on his own until he can both hunt and protect, as well as mate. The parents teach those skills to the young before they go off on their own. Well, every mammal except for humans, that is. So most parents do not teach their kids anything. They literally come home, even on the weekends when they have plenty of time. They come home, they do what they're doing, and they just ignore the kids. And the only time they even speak to them is to either yell at them or shut them up. Here's a toy. Here's a iPad. Here's a video game. Or they yell at them because they're bothering them. Your children should know every single solitary skill that you have. And most don't. They go out into the world. The parents never taught them about investing. They never taught them about balancing a checkbook. None of it. And if you don't have those skills, you need to get the skills so then you can teach them to your kids. Now, the way a human would teach their young how to hunt would be how to make money. Unfortunately, in today's day, it used to be that you had your kid do on-the-job training with you as an apprentice. In a lot of jobs, that's not practical. You can't do that. So if you can't bring your kid on and teach him your trade, then it's your job to pay for someone to teach him your trade. Now, high school does not cut it. A kid is not qualified. A boy is not qualified to go out into the world and provide for himself and a family, mind you, like other mammals would be able to do, because he went to high school. In fact, if you go work at McDonald's, you can't support even yourself. So now you've got to live with multiple roommates or maybe a girlfriend just to get by. That's not being a man where you cannot support yourself. You do not teach your children anything by them only graduating high school. So it's your responsibility to then pay for their college education or a tech school or teach them your own trade. And the vast majority don't. And the argument they say is, well, I don't have the money. However, I work with guys who all have the money. And not one single one that I have spoken to has a 529 plan set up for their kids, which is a college, it's basically a state-sponsored investment plan. You can choose different investments, but they're all mutual funds. And there are no taxes. You pay no taxes on that money when you use it for their education. If you don't use it for their education, you can then take the money out, sell the mutual funds, in which case you do pay taxes. Now, I don't personally think it's the best option because you'll still come out ahead if you pick individual stocks, but a lot of people are scared to do that. The point is, none of them provide for their kids' education, none of them. But they'll drive, they're both them and their wife will drive a Mercedes. They'll have a ridiculously expensive house. They'll commute all the way to Vail every day to Vail. For what purpose? Now, if you ask them, they'll say, well, it's because the Vail School District is the best in Arizona. Maybe, but no one gives a fuck where your kids went to high school. You know what matters? Where they go to college or going to college. So they'll say that they're doing what they're doing for their kids' education as to moving to Vail, but yet don't put a penny, not a single penny, away to the kids' education. No one cares about high school. It doesn't matter where you go to high school. Every high school curriculum is pretty much the same. Where the differs is going to college. And so if they really cared about their kids' education, it wouldn't be needing to go to the Vail School District. It would be paying for their college. Now, the real reason they're going to Vail is literally simply the name. To say the name of the particular Corona Estates or whatever other places are in Vail, but literally the name of saying, I live in Vail. When I ask them, what exactly do you commute every day? And you don't see your family for multiple hours a day. And obviously you say it's for their education, but it's not because you won't pay for their college. You have the money, but instead you buy Mercedes and, oh man, just ungodly amounts of toys and big houses and all these different things. But you still choose not to pay for their education. So don't bullshit me and say you went to Vail for their education. What do you do that you can't do somewhere else? And they'll say, well, there are bars and restaurants and clubs. And I say, well, do you go to any of those places on the days you work? And they'll say, no. Most of these guys won't even go there on the days they're off. They literally sit inside their house. But they had to commute 3 hours a day. Had to. Just like I talked about in the video on status or materialism makes you weak, and that it's literally just a name. They drive all those hours for the name of saying, I live in this particular neighborhood. They don't use anything in that neighborhood, which, by the way, Vail is not in Tucson. They still have to drive to Tucson if they were to go anywhere, but they don't. They never do. They sit at their house. And on the days they work, of course they're not going anywhere. But they spend all this money for themselves, but don't put a penny towards their kids' education. And I hate to say it, but a poor kid or a kid whose parents are poor are in a much better position. Because when taking out government-backed loans, they go off of the parents' income levels. You can't even get a loan. Not a traditional government-backed student loan if your parents make too much money. Because it's expected the parents will pay for it. So the poor kid actually has better opportunity, both with getting grants and scholarships, as well as being able to take out a loan. Now, a lot of parents will say, well, I didn't go to college. No, you got lucky. The stats all back it up. You need education. Well, I don't want them going to basket weaving. That's your choice. In fact, if you're paying for it, you could easily say, you're going to take these classes or I'm not paying for it. If you, well, they better maintain grades. Well, you can easily make that a stipulation, can't you? The fact of the matter is, the parents don't give a fuck about their kids. Now, they'll say they do. They'll say the reason they moved and they commute. But high school doesn't matter. Middle school doesn't matter. You know where they need the education? In college. And they refuse to pay for that. But A lion can do it. A lion can do it. A bird can do it. But if you can't do what a lion can do you really get to call yourself superior as a human? I don't think so. You're supposedly so smart, but you can't do for your young what every other mammal on this planet can do. How can you drive a Mercedes? How can you live in a 2-story house with a pool? How can you live in a neighborhood with all these rich people? How can you have a 4x4 and a boat and a Jeep and your car and a truck? How can you have those things and be okay with your kids living with 5 other people working at McDonald's just to get by, with no possible ability to get ahead? And maybe you got lucky. You got lucky you didn't need an education. And you're perfectly okay with that. That is a failure of the human race, and it's disgusting.